Okay. Greetings. This is Calcat the Calcatster. It's very late on was it Saturday night, and like last week, Creature Features crossovers. Call this playlist the Calcat Show. We are not directly affiliated, but we know about them from back in the day. So the playlist is called that, but we're not affiliated. Yes, this is another Creature Features review, and I'm going to check to see what the other one was called. This is the 1964 film The Horror of Party Beach. 50 years ago, 1970, in February, actually, 1970, on the Creature Features. Bob Wilkinson reviewed this movie as the first film aired on Creature Features. Now, the Calcat Show has often mentioned Creature Features because they were at Big Wow and Comic Fest. They were at Time Tunnel Toy. They were also at the Comic-Con, San Jose Comic-Con, but not the last San Jose Comic-Con. They weren't at that one. There was an imposter, the last one. It wasn't him. And Lord Broadwell was somewhere else and didn't stop the imposter, but I guess he couldn't. The current guy, John Stanley, got it back. Or John Stanley's director got it back. John Stanley and the director were hosts on this tonight's. There were guest stars. Tonight's episode. This is the show with the rocker dude, the Aussie sort of guy, and Chingilla and the tall butler. They're the correct ones. So they were on the show with the correct ones. He's still living, but Bob Wilkinson died many years ago. So they're doing a 50th anniversary podcast. So the Calcat Show was present in the podcast, as was David Browne, as was Lobo. So numerous other characters were on there from the cast, the other cast over there at formerly of the Big Wow. So there were a bunch of Big Wow people on there. Marx Cards was told about it beforehand because he would have been the horror host type. And he popped in. I don't know if he actually was on there under his name or not, but I'm sure he was in there somewhere. And I watched it. But we obviously didn't go on or told about it. Calcat would go in there. Adam Browne, of course. I would go in there and say stuff like, give that guy a cookie every time somebody did something funny. It was funny. Okay, so this movie was a black and white film. The Horror on Party Beach. It was filmed in Connecticut Beach, so it was the East Coast. And it's an environmental horror movie. Very similar in tone to the Milpitas Monster, which I'm sure this movie was an inspiration for the Milpitas Monster. This movie also inspired Jaws, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, a bunch of that stuff. And also the Alive, the Hand, also Night of the Living Dead, a number of other things that came. So yeah, so it inspired a lot of stuff. It's not a good movie. It's really, really bad, but it's MST3K quality. But yeah, but it inspired a bunch of people. It inspired Spielberg and Lucas, and the creature looks like something out of Star Wars. And of course, C-3PO looks like the character from Metropolis, the android lady that transforms the face. So we have. So the movie is about this party beach, party town place, Coney Island kind of deal, but Connecticut. I know Coney Island's not in Connecticut, I know, but it's kind of like that. So it's East Coast. It's not West Coast. Typical of a Hollywood movie, you have most of your cast is in their 30s playing like they're teenagers. But that was even the case in the 80s, two decades later. Also interspersed throughout this was people reminiscing about such things. There was a Callie and another person that were unrelated who had knew about Air High School and the Milpitas Monster, commented on there. And I commented, yeah, I was in it. Very briefly in the director's cut. So when they did the director's cut thing, that kind of thing. That was a different movie though. We've gone over that one before. Several siblings of that. And the Star Trek. John Stanley and his group would do Creature Con 1 and 2, Creature Con 2 and 3. We definitely were there, absolutely, 2 and 3, and any subsequent sequels. Big Wow went under and was absorbed by Silicon Valley Comic-Con, and so they couldn't go there anymore. So they sent the other people there, and of course the faker guy showed up, but yeah, the couple of years that I went to that, I did not go to the first freshman year of that, but I was at the sophomore and junior year of that. Yeah, then they didn't have it last year, which would have been senior year. They didn't have it. COVID started, so they couldn't have it. But they'll start up again next year. Milpitas Monster, uniquely had my father as a councilman, and he actually was one. They cast the council in it and the mayor. One of my sisters was the protester out in front of the city hall. The other one was the prom scene. And my brother was somewhere in the background, props and stuff. He didn't really do anything. I wasn't in it, but I was in the background. I also had a high school teacher who wasn't allowed to be in the movie, but was also in the background. So yeah, there's a weird connection there. Also, it's a Milpitas Monster. Also, there was a scene in the director's cut with some children playing near a house where they were getting soda pop out of a truck. There was a guy that delivered soda pop. It was the 70s. He's totally innocent. He wasn't evil or anything. It was just this old dude delivering soda pop he'd get from the 7-Eleven bring over there, or the Safeway back then. And so they just filmed it because they thought it was cute. And lo and behold, in that scene from the director's cut, briefly there's me. I'm in there. I'm like 4 or 5, but also very briefly. But also my older sister and her friend Katy are in there, and they're both in there, and it's clearly them. And they walk in, and they're like, and they were reminiscing about that later. They'd seen the special from they'd seen the 2015 one, and then I went to the 2016 one. So they went to different ones, but they'd seen it, and they're like, because it was several days of the event, so they went to the 2015 and 2016 one, and they saw it. They're like, hey, that's cool. That's the guy. We were in that. Yes. And she's all, yes, I was in that. Katy and her sister were in that. It was Connie. They were both in it. Her friends were, and her sister were in it. So we were in a horror movie. But yeah. And then later on, we were in a very strange psychological thriller in the 2000s. So. Also in the 90s, I was in a cameo uncredited cameo in Three Ninjas. Fight scene. Which Ernie Ray Jr. remembered that. And remembered me. And he was all, oh yeah. That one convention I told you about. Another one of these specials. And he's all like, yeah. It's highly dubious for me to get an autograph from you, Mr. Ernie Ray's. Because, yeah, I was in the cast. I'm like, oh, it's funny though. Let's do it. He signed a Ninja Turtle thing. I wasn't in Ninja Turtles. That would have been awesome. The guy behind me was in Surf Ninjas. Similar. Hey. We're all like, no, we see it. Yeah. Anyway, so I've been in a few things, but uncredited. There was somebody in there that was in the comments and saying, oh, I keep writing to them and they keep ignoring me. It was all that's typical. That happens. It'll happen eventually. So go to the conventions. Meet them at the conventions. And then you get to know them, then they might say, well, they might not. They might think you're weird. But if you go to the conventions, they might think it's okay. I did promotional for, helped out with a promotion for the 2015 and 2016 airings of the Milpitas Monster special aired and also friends from the old martial arts school. Well, one of them was playing the monster that was walking around. He's dressed as the monster. They redid the costume. He's walking around. It's a monster. It's kind of cool. So I knew the monster. It was just funny. Yes. The current monster. If they were going to do a sequel, they never did. They didn't get the funding for it. They were going to do a sequel. There were 3 scripts. There was a Popcorn Monster script. There was a Evil Cat script, which became something else on YouTube. You can look that up. And there was a 3rd script, which was closer to the idea that I had, which probably is the one they should have gone with, which was Industrial Waste Computer Robot Monster. Much cooler idea. It's an industrial waste monster. It's all like it's attacking the Great Mall. It wants to make a hive in there, like a Borg. Well, that's too ambitious. I don't think we could do that. Yeah, I can. It'll deliberately be really cheesy, is what it'll be. Yeah, we didn't end up doing that. The dump, they stopped using the dump over here for one thing. They do sales refuse. Anyway, so let's get back to the movie. We're rambling on about the Milpitas Monster. But hey, this is the 50th anniversary of Creature Features. So when I was Creature Features, if I even get back to the beach party movie, I don't know. Yeah, so I will talk about the beach movie now. How about that? And then I will get back to Creature Feature. Oh, what the heck? I'll just tell you. Okay, the Creature Features that I remember is John Stanley. A little bit later than Bob Wilkins, because I was born in 1970. So I remember John Stanley. A little bit about Wilkinson, but mostly John Stanley. I remember he would do the hosting thing at Marx Cards as well. I remember distinctly the night that they aired Nightmare on Elm Street. They weren't supposed to. We got in trouble. We watched it. My sister and I watched it. I thought it was friends and I that watched it, but actually, my sister, she put it out. She said, "No, that was me. Me and Candy were watching it. You came downstairs and watched it." Also, it was funny that I would watch that we had a color TV downstairs, a color TV, like a 19-inch color TV. Upstairs, I had like this little Zenith, little black and white TV. So everything was black and white. Marx Cards had something very similar. I also had a little tiny one too. So these 2 TVs. So yeah, I remember stuff from back then. Really bad old movies. That MST3K later made fun of. Space Mutiny, Battle Beyond the Stars, Swamp Creature, the Hand, the Brain That Wouldn't Die, that kind of thing. Nightmares afterward. What's he been watching? Oh, well, those were the Creature Features. So Dad was stay up late. He knew what I was doing. I was up there watching Creature Features. So there's yeah. But yeah, this movie is. I had not actually seen this movie all the way through in a long time. So it's been a long time. So I remembered parts of it. I remember the creature and some of the screams and the quarry scene and all that. So basically the movie is called Horror of Party Beach. Party Beach is in Connecticut. I think it was funnier because there were riff tracking jokes running along during the movie. When I was paying attention, it put John Wilkes to sleep the first time. It put John Stanley to sleep, I should say. Oh no, Bob Wilkins was not there. John Stanley was there. If I'm saying Bob Wilkins, that was the guy before John Stanley. That was the guy from 50 years ago. I wasn't there for that. I would have been really small. 2 months old or so. The show started. Yeah. So, but it was accurate because it was 2 months old because it was February when the episode aired. So actually, this anniversary story is January, but technically it was next month when it aired. Yeah. It even says so on the tape. This February, happy, like he says at one point, Happy Valentine's Day. So it had to be like a month from now that it actually aired. But maybe they taped it a month in advance. That's possible. And they've lost all the records of these videos. They didn't keep all the videos. They just kept the bumpers. So they got a new print of or beach. A very well done print of it. And I think it's probably blue DVD or Blu-ray. It almost looked like Blu-ray. It was well done for a black and white thing. There's a girl from the Romulan. There's a Romulan girl in it from Star Trek. It has Cliff Clavin from Cheers as a young man. It has Neil Patrick Harris's father walking around at the end. So it has a bunch of people from the cast. And somebody from Dragnet, there's a bunch of people in it, actually. But it's really bad. It's these shows from the 60s that my parents would know because they're old. They're older than you. My mother's 85 now. My father passed away in 2009, around the same time that the previous guy actually did. 2009. It's not the same person. But yeah, so anyway, back to the story. There's I guess he's a college student scientist guy in the beginning of the movie with I'm assuming it's his sister, because they don't act like it's his girlfriend, really. It's more like it's his sister, or possibly good friend assistant. They don't act like lovers. They act like they're like assistant or something. He likes her, but more like a sibling. So they have this, hence the sister scene I mentioned. Okay, so we have, oh my goodness. So somebody dumped chemicals into the reservoir, but it's really not the reservoir, it's really a beach. And somehow it's in salt water and it's mutating into a creature. These skull gets barnacles and they become alive and they form into a creature and he starts killing people. This inspired the movie Jaws, because the first killing in the movie is scene for scene the first killing by the shark in Jaws. Steven Spielberg watched this movie. Steven Spielberg really liked this movie. A lot of other movies that were inspired by it. Let's see what Marx Cards said about it. Romulan from the rubbery creature, the zombie song is awesome. The soundtrack for a cheesy movie that's really, really, really bad. The soundtrack is awesome. It's like, in modern times, it would be similar to an existential, like half Pink Floyd, half Fortet, half the drummer sequence. People, the Burning Man, it's a little bit funktastic and like kettle drums and snare drums. It's trippy because it's the 60s. The soundtrack is all over the place. Birdman was definitely inspired by this movie. That soundtrack, Birdman, definitely. Fortet, definitely inspired by this. Yeah, and the remix. John, the hot dog wiggle wiggle song. Oh my god. There's all these beach scenes. Okay, they have a party sequence that lasts longer than the one in 24-Hour Party People, but it doesn't tell you that it's all a party either. It's in the title, Massacre at Party Beach. There is a massacre, there's a horror at Party Beach, there is a horror at the Party Beach, and then they move on. So unlike 24-Hour Party People, which was horrible in its own right, there's this movie actually, it had similar soundtrack. Also inspired it, as I'm sure Joy Division was watching this movie too. Yep, sure they were. Yeah, so, and The Clash, definitely inspired. Yes, definitely. They must have watched it. So it inspired a lot of people. And Lucas. The thing totally looks like something in a Star Wars. So we have... so it was like the zombie stomp and the wiggle wiggle. And the wiggle wiggle is literally what you think it is. It's the wiggle your crotch. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. They're clearly spoofing Elvis, which is awesome, because he did that too. In fact, because it was a movie, they could show it, but theaters. Back in the day, my mother went to see an Elvis thing. To see an Elvis concert. Way back in the day, she went to an Elvis thing. She said, "Okay, on the television, well, the reason everybody's screaming and wooing and swooning and everything is because Elvis is actually doing something lewd just below the camera line. He's swiveling his hips around like ah." And apparently, he was rather well endowed. Oh my! So that's why they were going ah, because they were like, "Look at that." So apparently Mr. Presley was hung like a horse. And with those pants, you totally see it. Or you can the outline of it. So, yeah. Elvis Presley died in 1977. Anyway, but he has descendants. Some Marie Presley and Priscilla Presley. And so, anyway, Lisa Marie was the mother, right? Something like that. Anyway, so back to the horror beach story. We have a horror beach, and I'm rambling for. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna get back to the story. All right, the creature comes out of the thing, and yeah, I'm gonna ramble because I get the whole. It's 50th anniversary. It's cool, so. I don't know if we'll do one of these every week starting this season, but maybe. It might be cool. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe they might kick me off the board and say, no, Cal Cat, you can't come back. You're really annoying. No, they won't. Get these Cal Cats out of here. Oh, he's muscling in on an act. Oh, but I'm not, though. I'm not a horror host. I'm reviewing the movie. I'm not a horror host. Just going over what I thought of it. So we have a lot of mainly I'm talking about stuff that I related to, not the movie. That's what I usually do. But we have sure well, they basically have to figure out who killed the lady, and then there's another scene where they show this stereotypical black maid, who I hope isn't a white lady in blackface, because that'd be bad. It could be. It's the 60s. I don't think it is, though. And she practices voodoo. She's figured out that's voodoo creatures are coming out of the zombie creatures coming out of the ocean. She's figured that evil humanoids from the deep kind of thing. You know, remember Humanoids from the Deep? That was on Creature Feature. Yes, it was. And Waxwork Part 1 was on there. So a bunch of stuff was on there. But yes, Humanoids from the Deep featured Marina Sirtis. Yes. And in a flashing nude scene at one point. Flashing boob scene. A booby scene. A titillating moment, I should say. Pew. Yes, Marina Sirtis, who later was on Star Trek The Next Generation, Deanna Troi. Yeah, so there's Star Trek people in horror movies. Even in this one, the Romulan lady gets killed. So we have Craig again, I think. Yeah, it might be. Yeah. So they try to figure out the crime, but while they're trying to figure out the crime, and there's reporters, that typing noise is played when there's a reporter, even if there's no room with a reporter, they're just out there. That's what happens in a reporter office. Even though it probably wasn't, it was probably a bank, or a building, just a random office building. Of course, in the 60s, all men had ties, all older men had ties, and some of them had hats. They all had a suit, because that was typical of the time. Even in Silicon Valley, typical of the time. It wasn't until the 80s did they have shorts, Bermuda shorts and shirts and stuff, and Levi's and stuff. That was a little later, 70s and 80s. That was a little later. sport coats and things. That was later. So we have one point on the beach during the party. The party scene went on for a long time, so there's a whole party scene, so you get your fill of it. There's a fight scene, the guy defending the girl's honor and beating up this guy, and a hilarious fight scene because there was a song playing, the hot dog song, and there was the way they did that. And then later on, there's a slumber party, and they were all calling it. Everyone called it kind of the same thing. It's a slumber party of all 30-year-old teenagers. They were at least 30 years old. And they were, which is fine. Why not? Relive the slumber party days from 15 years ago when you were 15 or so. The monsters attack the party, killed them all. A slumber party massacre type of deal. Slumber party massacre was inspired by this. Okay. But in that it was a killer. It was a humanoid. It wasn't a creature from space. The creature from chemicals. The black lady tries to tell the wife, who's the detective's wife, about the creature, oh no, and there's like all this, yeah, and it's just they figure out near. Yeah, I'll just kind of recap the movie because I'm not really doing a horror host. I'm just kind of recapping the movie. I'm not a horror host. Marx Cards, on the other hand, kind of not me. So they get to the part where they're trying to figure the whole thing out. And then they figure out the university is dumping stuff in a quarry, which is not really connected to the beach, but I guess could be next to the beach or something. And they mention that salt. Apparently some salt gets spilled on this creature's hand that gets knocked off of it, and it catches fire and burns. I figure the sodium is like sodium chloride, and it's destroys the creature. The black lady figures this out, and I commented, I bet that in the 60s they would not give her credit because racial inequality back then. They probably wouldn't, not for very long, not in the papers. Yeah, that'd be bad. They probably wouldn't. But then they figure out they can dump salt on the creature, and a number of us, so I wasn't the only one, commented, saltwater creature gets killed by salt. That doesn't make sense. Wouldn't bother him because he's in salt water. Oh well. Ew, and I also commented, well, they're also handling radioactive material as if it's nothing. Going like, oh look, it must be radioactive, and they're like handling it. And my snarky comment near the end is as they drove away from. Well, there were two snarky comments that were made near the end. Well, they go to destroy the creature, and they go in there to battle the creatures, and they get all the salt, and it explodes into the air. So my comment was, that's all this chemical flies everywhere, and then the radiated chemical was vaporized into the air and suffocated half the town. Not only that, our heroes died 3 weeks later from radiation poisoning. That's fucked up. That's not really what happened, but that's probably what happened. It's like when they filmed that Greatest Story, like that John Wayne movie that they spent all that money on, and like they sent a bunch of them up to that nuclear test site because it was all flattened and destroyed, and they had them film there, and then like a third of the cast came down with radiation poisoning and they didn't know what it was. The director did, but they didn't. And John Wayne died later of cancer, probably from that didn't help. He died of something, lung cancer from smoking, but it didn't help that he had radiation sickness. It didn't help. So it's kind of like that. So that was kind of my recap of this really awful horror movie that is an inspiration for many. Marx Cards is one of his favorite cheesy, schlocky horror movies. I think MS-3K did this with Brains Doesn't Die. There's a number of other ones. and the creature and the thing, and they live and all that stuff. And then there's the modern They Live, which was from the 80s. And the Them, which was the inspiration for The Thing. And it was a remake of The Thing. It was... No. This is before jump scares. So they would do like this musical stings before things happen. But you weren't quite sure because that musical soundtrack is nuts. Seriously. They were on. They mentioned Attack of the Mushroom People. Somebody also commented, yeah, magic mushrooms. We're cooking. It all said that we should go and reappear at the conventions when they come back. Just show up at the booth, CreatureCon booth, and go like, yeah, and we will. We'll be there. Yeah, we'll show up. And if the faker there is there, we'll just go. We're like, okay, the fake guy's over there, but we're not going to go over to him. We're going to go to the real ones. Yes, horror makes you stronger. So yeah, another thing before I go. I think I mentioned that before, and the other thing too, but I like mentioning it. My late sister Yvonne, who was one of my half sisters, my brother Robert. I mentioned that there was a Trekkie convention they went to in the summer of '73 or '74. Trekkie convention, one of the first ones ever. They went to the Trekkie convention, and I said, I have a tape of that from down there. I was like, I have a tape of that. I went to the John Stanley thing, and he had a tape of the convention, and you're in it. But oh yeah, we were at that. Yeah, we're walking around. Robert's in there. Moni's there somewhere, but we were definitely. Yeah, they were there. They were walking around the convention. So there's we've been Trekkies for generations, basically. They're in their 70s. So we were Trekkies for generations. My father, if he was still alive, would be in his mid-90s. So they're like World War II veteran. So it's like, there would be like generations of Trekkies. The original Trek was, we were watching they watched the original. We watched the reruns in 1973. Started again. On KTVU. Back to KTVU. You see, it works. KTVU, it aired at about 4 o'clock on prime time. And we would watch Star Trek and TV dinners and stuff. We cooked something. But yeah, 19-inch TV. Zenith. And RCA and stuff. And we have these old clunkety VCR that first got top loader that came in. One of those clunky microwaves. Of the same kind as featured in the infamous American Hustle movie. Same kind of microwave. That's what we had. Yeah. They didn't use ours, but it looked like it. And Back to the Future, the camera, Back to the Future, the same red JVC camera recorder that recorded Starcrackers and a lot of the early videos. Most of the early videos. Before 2000. But 496, I would say. That was destroyed in the premiere of the Cal Cat Show. We probably shouldn't have done that. Collectors like, oh, well, it was funny. But yes, that wasn't actually from Back to the Future. It was just the same model. So yeah, we wouldn't have destroyed it if it was actually from the movie. I'd be like, why did you do that? So if it was from the movie, it would have been on display. JVC. But yes, horror on the beach or whatever. I've been rambling, but yeah, I liked it. So this is the official premiere of what would amount to is crossovers, creature feature crossovers. Okay, yeah. So I left it recording. No, cut that out. Yeah.